I'm the Mainly Digger, and today we're doing a video about famous authors in Maine, or artists. Our first five are famous authors. Um, these authors are older authors, uh, probably late 1800s, most of them. Um, they are pretty much what I read in high school, or what I was forced to read in high school. Didn't really enjoy it, and then as I got older, I reread them and realized that they're amazing. Um, but yeah, these books are my childhood. I read, like I said, I read them in high school, and then my whatever military career when I was deployed. These are the books that I'd read because no one else would, and I just I don't know. They remind me of Maine. They remind me of my high school years and my school years. Um, Really, I enjoyed them a lot, and these are the five authors. Our first author, and I have the picture up, is probably one of the most famous authors to come out of Maine. Born and bred in Portland, Maine, born in 1807, it is Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Um, American poet. He wrote poetry. He wrote American poetry. His family's still in Maine. He actually has a crypt in Maine, and there's a crazy story that I'll tell after I finish all the information. What he wrote, his famous writings are Paul Revere's Ride, the Song of Hiawatha. I probably said that wrong, and he wrote a whole bunch of more that I didn't write down. Uh, he studied at Bowdoin College and then later became a professor at Bowdoin College. And after that, he went to Harvard to become a professor. Interesting fact, he lived in George Washington's house, one of his houses for a while. Um, and the little creepy story that goes along with it is that there's a crypt in Portland, Maine, that all the Wadsworths were buried in, or not buried in, but like put in. Um, they No one really paid attention to it. They knew where it was, but like after a century, they had to do some restoration, or there was rust on the gates or something in there. Someone had to go in there. Someone went in there, and there's nothing in there at all. It's empty. Uh, just just one of those creepy, crazy stories. Um, I don't know. I love creepy, crazy stories. So, all right, our next one is our second famous author, not born and bred in Maine, but his childhood home's there, so Mainers accept him as being a Maine author, is Nathaniel Hawthorne, born in 1804 and died in 1864. Uh, Dark romantic novelist, which is unusual for that time. His boyhood home's in Raymond, Maine, and he wrote Twice Told Tales, uh, and The Scarlet Letter. And once again, he probably wrote more. But yeah, we accept him as a Mainer because why not? His boyhood home is actually once again another place that is a museum in Maine. So our third one is our third author is Harriet Beecher Stowe. Um, Also not born and raised in Maine. She has a house there, or had a house there, which is in Brunswick and is also a museum. Um, Born in 1811 and died in 1896. Her famous work of art is Uncle Tom's Cabin. If you don't know what, I'm not going to explain Uncle Tom's Cabin. It had a huge effect on the American Civil War, or the North during that time, because the Fugitive Slave Act had just come out in not 1850. Um, that's why she wrote it. So, which it was passed by Congress. Um, it like her book alone, the Uncle Tom's Cabin, just it pushed the North. It showed the North what slavery really was. Um, and she had a whole bunch of others. She wrote a lot. I think it said it. She had over 30 novels written, and small stories. It's just prolific writer. Not a Mainer by birth, but she has a house there and she's famous, so we accept her. And our fourth one is E.B. White. Not a He has a home. He's another one that has a home in Maine or had a home in Maine, so and is famous, and we consider him a Mainer. Um, Born in 1899, died in 1985. Wrote for the New Yorker for like 14 years. Um, a child, like amazing child, wrote books for children. Stuart Little, Charlotte's Web, uh, The Trumpet of the Swan. All these books are books of my youth. Like either I have had them read to me, or I read them in school. I've read them to my daughters. Amazing author, amazing book. I wish I had more on him, but I don't. And our fifth one needs no picture. He's still alive. I would say he's currently the most famous author to come from Maine, born and bred in Maine, taught in Maine, still lives in Maine. It is Stephen King. He he has written pretty much for every genre you could think of. Horror, science fiction, um, fantasy. Like he has covered all of them. He's even written history books. There's one about the assassination of JFK that kind of was it was history, but it turned into sci-fi. I forgot what it was called. Um, I read it on my Kindle. It was free, but it was an amazing it was written by him, and it was just amazing how much detail, historical detail, he went into. It turned weird into sci-fi, but it was a good book. Um, some of the titles I do remember are Carrie, It, the Dark Tower series. I mean, just an amazing writer in general. I don't have to tell you this; most of you already know. Uh, his fake name that he wrote under for a long time, was Richard Bachman, and that's Stephen King. Like he owns a home in Bangor. I've covered it in one of my my stories or one of my videos. Just an amazing writer. And now we're gonna do five artists, like actual artists, because man is huge, has a huge art community. Um, let's see where this goes. All right, so not so much five, because there's so many to go over. But there's four famous ones. I'll give you four famous ones, extremely famous ones. Pretty much the whole Wyeth family. Uh, Andrew Wyeth, Jamie Wyeth, and N.C. Wyeth. I don't know, something in the water where they're from. Some genetic, amazing genes. I have no idea. They can paint, they can draw, they do artistic things well, and they can make money off of it. Um, and then Georgia O'Keeffe, amazing, amazing painter, very famous, um, just an amazing painter, and they're all Mainers because they're famous and at one point had lived in Maine. Um, but yeah, so that's my list. I hope you enjoyed it. I had to cut it short because I need to go to sleep. Um, I'm the Mainland Digger. See y'all later.